First question really, how long have you been tattooing for?
As a professional, I've been tattooing 28 years. I was doing it a couple of years prior to that, but I don't really count those years because...
Practicing really.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, I started when I was got my first proper machine when I was 14. So, and I opened at Middleton when I was 18.
Okay, so if I was calculating, what age would that make you then?
46.
Alright, so really what's a favourite thing about being a tattooist then?
It's very difficult, but I mean, I come from an artistic background. My mum was a painter and a sculptor, but the sort of thought of me going to art school in the 70s was just like, forget it. All you'd have done was just get beaten up. But I was creative and stuff, and tattooing was like the ideal outlet. So I started off, I was always fascinated by tattoos. So I started drawing them and copying stuff that I saw, and I think it would have been 1974, and I do stand to be corrected on this, but Elton John brought out a single called Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting. I actually bought the record. I threw the record away, but I bought it for the picture sleeve because it was all tattoo designs, and then all my school books got covered in them and stuff like that. So it just sort of went from there. It was a way for me to do my artwork and for all my mates to still think, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, so you look like a bit of a nerd then.
No, not really, because I mean, I was doing little tattoos on myself. And it just sort of snowballed from that because my parents didn't actually discourage me. They did the opposite. They encouraged me. And I worked it out not long ago. In today's money, there was my mum and dad, my grandparents, and the parents of a girl who was seen at the time. Between them, they clubbed together. They gave me the equivalent of 40 grand to set that business up, and I was 18 years old. I mean, it took some bloody courage to do that because, I mean, I've got a grown-up daughter and she's 23. If she came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, give me 40 grand," I'd be like, whoa. So, to think at a time when tattooing was nothing like it is now, for them to have that courage and conviction to do that, I'm really grateful.
Cool. So on that basis then, how do you think people do perceive your work then?
I think at first I was just sort of humoured by people, if you know what I mean. But my sort of whole ethos about tattoos was that anything could be reproduced, but this was at a time when it was still sort of love art scrolls, all what is now referred to as old school. I mean, that was the norm, but this was at a time when there was artists coming along like Ed Hardy in the States and people like that who were doing things that were radically different, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So without even having the experience, I was trying to do these kind of pieces of work, and I was just failing miserably because I just didn't have the experience. But it's all a big learning curve, and even now to this day I'm still learning. You never ever stop learning, and that's part of what I get the buzz from. When you do something you think that's how you do it.
Okay, so from that then, what's been your favourite tattoo that you've done or would like to do?
The Rocketeer sleeve.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing that one because it's something that's been done before, but I reinvented it, and I put that twist on with all the cliche sayings about tattoos. So I mean, it was a fantastic piece of work to do, and it was so well received. And I'm now sort of doing a lot of work on what I call my own versions of modern contemporary Japanese work. And like the piece that I had in London last year, it was like a samurai on horseback, but he's got an iPod on. So just
making it a little bit more
putting a little bit of quirky stuff in like that. But it's the same thing. It's taking a classic design but then making it into something of my own. So like the picture of the horse, it was actually from an engraving of a 17th century plate of a war horse. And the samurai warrior per se, I took an image of a man, but I dressed him up more in like Middle Eastern dress rather than typical samurai stuff. And it's just doing things like that. So it's like people can look at it, but they'll straight away they'll think something's different, and it makes them look at it more. Because I mean, you see a lot of people, they'll see a build back piece and they'll go, and that's it. And that just really pissed me off, that, because you think like, you spent like 100+ hours doing something for that, and you just think. So it's all about like doing something different, making it interesting for people to see, and probably more important for all these sort of anti-tattoo idiots to make them realise, well, there's a little bit more to this than meets the eye. So it's like, it's constantly pushing the boundaries of the work that we do to take it to new levels all the time, to sort of retain that interest.
When you think about these, as you say, anti-tattoo people, looking at David Beckham's tattoos, for example, do you think he helps portray the tattooing industry in a good way?
Yeah, I think where David Beckham's concerned, I mean, you're always going to get these people who think, oh, he's a tosser or whatever, but you cannot argue with the fact that he has been a fantastic ambassador for tattooing. He's the only celebrity that I know who can get a tattoo and fill every bloody newspaper in the country with it. You cannot say that that is bad for tattooing. So because, all right, as much as it might be that people are going to go out and replicate it and tattoo and oh shit, here we go again. The fact is that he's putting bums on seats and they're spending money. That can't be a bad thing.
And obviously you're being a part of that by doing it on him, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's I sort of look at it indirectly as my way of giving something back. So I mean, when I tattoo Beckham, I am painfully aware that it comes under very close scrutiny. So you've got to do an absolute top-notch piece of work, because it's going to be, everyone's going to look at it, everyone's going to try and find fault with it. And when you do it and it's nice, and then people are like, well, oh yeah. So I mean, like David's mum, she doesn't like him being tattooed.
Whose mum does?
But she says, but they are fantastic pieces of artwork. So it's like, it's almost like a backhanded compliment, but it's still a compliment from somebody who doesn't like tattoos.
I tell you what, that must be the ultimate accolade. Never mind David Beckham saying, hey Louis, this is a great tattoo. His mother saying it's a great tattoo.
You sort of get the biggest buzz when I've been like abroad and somebody will come up to me in the street, and this happens a lot, and they'll go, oh, I've seen you on London Ink, and he's like, that tattoo is amazing that you did. And I'll say, oh, like, have you got any tattoos? And they'll go, no, I don't particularly want one, but I really like that. So it's nice to get that kind of feedback from people who are not even tattooed.
Well, yeah, I understand that, because I'm someone who's not tattooed myself, so
there you go.
I'm looking at
So you're a virgin, are you?
Getting onto that topic, actually, Lou, I've been asked to ask you a question. We were talking about horses earlier.
Right.
I've heard a little rumour that the question is it true that you're hung like one?
I have got very average, modest endowment. However, I will say quality always supersedes quantity. There's no point in having a big cock if you can't use it.
That's true.
You want to have a go now, don't you?
Right, okay.
Oh, go on then.
Right, back to the job in hand.
Stop blushing now.
Tattoo Freeze, what do you think?
I am genuinely pleasantly surprised, because I think a lot of people thought like, oh, it's the first one of the year, it's January, nobody's got any money. But I mean, Christ, there's a lot of people here, a lot more than what I think anybody expected. So I mean, that's great, it's brilliant.